for the next keynote a more regional perspective by Dr. Thomas Kattenstein, who is representing the hydrogen network of the region of North Rhine, Westphalia in Germany. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rasmussen, for the kind introduction, also for giving us the opportunity to talk on our state of North Rhine-Westphalia, or short NRW. This is the biggest state in Germany with regard to population and GDP. We are located in the western part of Germany, close to the Netherlands and Belgium. And our capital city is Düsseldorf. Our biggest city is Cologne, which is the home of the GATT conference and fair, which was already mentioned by Mr. Linke before. You heard my name is Thomas Kattenstein, and I'm working for the energy consultancy EE Energy Engineers GmbH, which is responsible for the project of the Energieagentur NRW and Energy Agency NRW. And here I'm heading the network for fuel cells, hydrogen and electric mobility. The network consists since 21 years, so since the year 2000. We work together with a lot of companies and research institutions in our area. Altogether, we have 500 members, or more than 500 members in the meantime. And we have, over the time, initiated and accompanied about 150 projects in the field of hydrogen and fuel cells, which were funded by our state of North Rhine-Westphalia, which was complemented by European funding within the structural funds policy. So we're working since 21 years on the topic of the new hydrogen, green hydrogen, and green technology. But of course, there's also the traditional side of hydrogen and the traditional side of the use in industry. And it shows the next slide, where we can see some numbers and some figures on hydrogen that is used today in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is of course not green hydrogen. This is the gray hydrogen, mainly produced by natural gas. And the idea is, of course, in the future to convert that into green hydrogen. It is used in the chemical industry and in the petrochemical industry. We are very strong in our state on that industrial topics. You see here the numbers. We have 600,000 tons hydrogen, which is produced today and used today in the industry sector. It's 1/3 of Germany. I already said it is mainly by natural gas, of course, but we have also another source, which is a so-called byproduct hydrogen, which is produced by a chlor-alkali electrolysis. So the main product here is chlorine, and hydrogen is only the byproduct, but it's 5% of the total amount that is produced, so it's very important as well. And which is also very important is that we today already have a pipeline, an industrial pipeline, which works only with hydrogen. You see that on the graph on the right bottom side. It's a red line between the cities of Leverkusen in the south and in the Ruhr area in the north. It's a private pipeline operated by the company of Air Liquide. It is in operations since more than 80 years, without any accidents, without any problems. And that gives us, of course, some motivation to further work on the topic of hydrogen, because we have the experience, we know how it works, we have not seen problems by now, so we are prepared to do the step to bring the hydrogen also in the other sectors. And that shows the next slide, which shows that, of course, as I mentioned before, we would like to use, of course, green electricity, green power, to use the power-to-X approach, and to substitute the gray hydrogen in the future in the green hydrogen, of course. That's the idea for the industry, but we have climate protection goals not only in the industry, we have that in all the sectors. Big discussion also in Glasgow in the last 2 weeks. We have the power sector, the heat sector, and also the transport sector. And hydrogen is able to take or to contribute to the decarbonization and to the defossilization also in these 3 other sectors, which I mentioned before. Our state, North Rhine-Westphalia, is very active on that topic. As I said, we have our network, but in addition, there were several papers study and also a roadmap with very ambitious goals. What has to be done, or what are the objectives for the next years, and what has to be done to reach the objectives. The next slide shows then what is the challenge. And the challenge was already mentioned before. The challenge is we will need a lot of hydrogen. You see the number on the right-hand side. In 2050, there will be a demand of hydrogen of more than 100 terawatt hours per year, or 3.2 million tons per year. Compared with the 600,000 tons I mentioned before, this means a factor 5 compared with today within the next 29 years. So a huge challenge, and the challenge is not only the amount, the challenge is also the location. Where does the hydrogen come from? And you see in the graph, on the right-hand side of the graph, the blue colors, that about 80% will come from abroad, so not from NRW, and only 20% will be produced in our state. So we rely on other German states, especially the ones in the North Sea. We have to rely on other European countries and maybe also on international partners like South America, North Africa, and so on. Regarding the demand, of course, because we have a big industry, we have chemical industry, petrochemical industry, which I mentioned before. In addition, we have a lot of steel industry. That's the reason why we see the highest demand in the industry sector, but as well in the transport sector, followed by power and heat as well. In the long run, it has to be green hydrogen, that's for sure. We would like to contribute to climate protection. In the ramp up, it is also allowed to take other colors, like the already mentioned blue hydrogen or turquoise hydrogen with pyrolysis. Both is allowed in the meantime. I already mentioned that we have to import a lot of highest share, and that's of course a conclusion. We need to strengthen international markets. We have to work with our partners, and that's not only on the economical level, that's also important with regard to the research level. On the next two slides, I would like to give you some concrete examples on objectives and also on projects that are going on. First, I would like to focus on the transport sector. Here you see that, for example, here's a fuel cell bus topic. Here you see within the next 4 years, we would like to have 500 fuel cell buses on the road, and within the next 9 years, 3,800 fuel cell buses on the road. And this would mean 45% of the total fleet. So very ambitious goal, but we are not starting from scratch. We already have some activities ongoing. For example, in Cologne, the regional transport company in Cologne on the left-hand side, and also in the public utility in Wuppertal, Stadtwerke Wuppertal. They were the front runners in our area with regard to fuel cell buses. They have already buses in operation. They have different approaches for the hydrogen production. The Cologne area uses the byproduct hydrogen, which was already mentioned. And in the Wuppertal area, we have an electrolysis approach with waste-fired power plants, where we use the electricity for the electrolysis and to produce green hydrogen, which then is used in the public fleet, as you can see on the picture. We have several initiatives in order to come to the higher numbers. This is very successful, but it's for sure we need to complement all the market activities with research activities, and here we are as well very strong with our institutions that we have in our state. The next slide shows an example for objectives with regard to energy and infrastructure. Again, the 2 years, 2025 and 2030. With regard to pipelines, the idea is to have additional 120 kilometers pipeline in NRW within the next 4 years. And by 2030, the idea is to have 240 kilometers in NRW. And also, we would not only like to import hydrogen, we would like to produce our own hydrogen as far as it is possible. That means more than 100 megawatt electrolysis in the next 4 years, and 1 to 3 gigawatt by the next 9 years. And the 1 to 3 gigawatt is very ambitious compared with the national goal that we have, where it is mentioned that Germany would like to have 5 gigawatt by 2030. NRW says 1 to 3 in NRW. That means around about 50% in our state, and that is very, very ambitious. The two projects I would like to mention is the GET H2 project, and first the GET H2 Nucleus project, which will take place in Lingen in Lower Saxony and in the Ruhr area, so in North Rhine-Westphalia. The idea is to produce hydrogen via electrolysis in Lingen, where we have a lot of wind capacity to use this hydrogen in a local refinery, but to transport the remaining hydrogen via a pipeline in our Ruhr area, where we use the green hydrogen for another refinery and also for a chemical park. The idea is to start the production end of 2024. And again, we have here a European approach, a European level, because this project has applied for funding within the IPSAI approach, the important projects of common European interests. And yeah, if that is successful, then we will see the project and the electrolyzer in operation in the next 3 years. Another project that is already in operation or already ongoing is a Rhine project, which takes place in the Cologne area at the Shell refinery. Here we have today only a 10 megawatt electrolyzer, which produces 1% of the total demand of the refinery, so not too much. But the idea is, of course, to increase the size of the electrolyzer to 100 megawatt in the next time, and to, of course, contribute with a higher share to the need, to the hydrogen demand that we see in this refinery. So two first projects that are ongoing, which are in line with the hydrogen strategy of North Rhine-Westphalia. And this brings me to the end of my short keynote. On the next slide, I have summarized the boundary conditions that we see in our state, which are interesting, especially for R&D activities, because our very active state governments has funding instrument available, R&D funding with own state money in supplementing national money and European money. We have a cluster and network that combines and brings together the competencies that we have in our area. We have a lot of enterprises, we have a lot of research institutions, we have, of course, a very active regional office of the DVGW, and we have also the bottom-up approach, which was mentioned before. We see a lot of regions and a lot of municipalities that would like to produce their own hydrogen and to set up their own activities with regard to hydrogen. But of course, it's for sure, we need the cooperation with European partners, and we need the cooperation also on the R&D level with regard to hydrogen activities. We are open for cooperation, and if you're interested, please contact us. We are interested to work together. Thank you very much.